Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here with all of you here in Leicester. I was remembering, as I came to the town, that I came to this city once before, and this was 40 years ago. It was when we have started the service of Brahma Kumaris here in Leicester in a tiny space, and I was so happy to see how beautiful is the center and how much it grew in all these years. So it's really an honor to be here after so long. And when I heard about this topic, love, which is such a deep aspect, a deep subject, I said to Maureen, the sister who mentioned to me the topic, I said, wow, I have 24 hours to imbibe love, because it's something that you have to speak from your heart and also from your experience. So let's just start with one moment of silence so that we create the atmosphere, and then we are going to share about the subject. Just experience silence, just be quiet for a moment, and just connect with yourself and ask this question to yourself. What is love for me? What is really love? Okay, we can come back and try to answer this very big question, what is really love? For sure, what people call love, it's a word that has been very much used and abused, and it's very different from the reality of what love really is. I ask you, is it love when the person says to the other one, I have fallen in love for you? Can love make you fall? Is this love? And when the person says to each other, I die of love for you, is this love? Because with love, you are supposed to climb up, to raise up. With love, you are supposed to live, to experience light. And how can you love and at the same time fall and at the same time die? So all these expressions, they show that the love that they are referring to are not the real love. Because love is some very sublime feeling. It's a sublime feeling and also an emotion. A feeling because it comes from the heart, because it comes from inside of us, when we have the most genuine and pure feelings towards human beings. And it's also an emotion because when you are taken by the real love, you can do a lot of great things for the other person and also for the world. So it requires this kind of passion of love for you to change yourself. Because if you don't have this inner passion for changing yourself, for transforming yourself, it becomes very difficult for you to make spiritual effort. So love can have these two dimensions, being a feeling and being an emotion. But a feeling and an emotion that always makes us feel good, that makes us to rise above whatever is ordinary, whatever is common, whatever is not the real experience of human beings. We say here in Brahma Kumaris that love is one of our essential qualities and also original qualities. Because seeing the world nowadays with so much violence, with so much negativity, with so much harm that people have been creating one to the other, it's very difficult sometimes to think that love, purity, happiness are the qualities that originally belong to the soul, originally belong to the human nature. When we see people doing killing in the name of God, or people doing all kinds of things to the nature, mistreating the nature or mistreating each other, it's hard for us to think that we are genuinely people who are full of love. I always like to give this image because can make us feel very clearly how we came away from these original qualities. When you experience some disease, for instance, the flu, would you say, I am flu? Or I am the flu? Or you would say, I am having a flu. I am experiencing a flu. How do you say? I got a flu, right? So it means that you are not the flu. The flu came, the flu stayed with you for a few days, and then the flu went away. But you are not this disease, you are not the flu. Originally, you are some healthy person. So the same thing, when we lose our love, when we lose our patience, when we lose our happiness, it's because some kind of spiritual flu, some kind of spiritual disease came into our souls, and for some moments we forgot these qualities. We forgot that we are these qualities. So when we understand that we are beings of love, it should be clear that it's not difficult to experience love. Love should be natural for us. So if we are not experiencing love in our lives, it means that there is some kind of blockage, some kind of wall that is interrupting me to experience that. So I can remove this blockage. I can remove this wall. Like when I was coming from London to here, it was a beautiful day with sunshine, and it was already becoming end of the day by when I arrived here. And some heavy clouds, gray kind of clouds, were coming onto the sky and were closing the sun for some moments. So the sun didn't stop shining because of the clouds. The clouds came temporarily, and then after some time, they disappear. So the same with us. Love is inside of us eternally. So this is the first thing that we really need to understand, because otherwise we can think that it's difficult, that I don't have love, I am incapable to experience love, and that's not true, that's not real. All of us have this quality. Even the most negative person has this quality, because the negativity just puts the person away from the inner qualities, but the inner qualities are still there. Whenever we think in terms of love, there are other ways of thinking in terms of misunderstanding. Some people think that love is something that is connected with attachment. They think that if I love someone, I have the proof that I'm loving this person when I feel jealous about that person. So I try to control that person. I try to create dependency on that person so that I feel protected. I feel that I can guarantee that the person loves me. But in fact, love is freedom. Love doesn't mean to control. Love means giving. So if I'm giving, how can I think about taking from the other one? So everything that connects with taking or with jealousy or with controlling is not real love, but it's attachment. And many times we think that if we don't have the expression of attachment, we cannot prove that we really love someone. But love means that we are independent, which independency doesn't mean that we feel separation. Independent doesn't mean individualism. It doesn't mean that we are far away from each other. There is a difference between individualism and individuality. So love encourages individuality, but not individualism. Individualism, it means that I am separated from the other person. I don't love, I don't care, I am egocentric, I'm just in my own world, I'm just thinking about my own needs, and I don't mind about other people. So this is individualism. But individuality means independence, means that I want to develop myself. I want to create a good nature. I want to develop my potential. I want to be a person that is supported by my own feet. I'm not dependent on anyone. So there is a big difference between individualism and individuality. So love is not passion of falling in love. Love is not dying for someone. Love is not attachment. So what is love? A part of being the natural quality of the soul, our original quality of the soul. Maybe the word that expresses or defines better love is to care and to give. Whenever we have an attitude of giving someone or caring for someone, we are expressing our love. And we can express our love not just for one specific human being, because many times love is mistaken by having a companion, or it means just one person is the one who is going to receive my love. But there are many possibilities of expressing love. I can express my love in terms of motherly love, sisterly love, brotherly love, a companion, of course. I can express my love for nature. I can express my love for the animals. I can express my love for a cause, for humanity. So all of these are signs that I have this quality of love inside of me. And it was about more than 1 year now that there was a series of articles in one of the main Brazilian newspaper. And the topic of these articles were about the important virtues of the world, because they were launching a very famous book, the book of the small and big virtues, something like this. And when they started to have these articles, one aspect called my attention, that it was about what is the virtue that it's more spoken in the world. And probably when we think about music or we think about how it has been used by people, we would say love. Love is a virtue that people are really trying to get hard nowadays. But in fact, do you know what is the virtue, which is the virtue that is more present in the literature around the world? Is the virtue of courage. And it's very interesting to see that, because you can make a connection between love and courage. For you to have real love, you really have to have courage. Because to have real love, you have to renounce some things, some limitations of your inner self. You cannot really love if you don't give yourself. And for that, all the egoistic nature has to be renounced. Also, requires a lot of courage to love, to give without any expectation of receiving back. Nowadays, many times love becomes a commerce. I love you if you love me. If you love me 50%, I will just love you 50%. So this is like a commerce between people. But to love without expectation requires a lot of courage. Another aspect that requires courage in terms of love is that when you love, you have to love independently of the other person. If the other person is going to accept, if the other person is not going to accept, because you are just expressing your love, expressing your quality, not necessarily that you will be absolutely sure that the other person will respond to that. So love requires courage. Courage to create love, to experience love, to make love to grow inside of yourself. Courage to be unlimited in terms of the love that you express. And also, there are many ways of experiencing love. I can tell you that no doubt the love between two people, two companions, it's important in terms of love. But for instance, do you know how many years in average one marriage lasts in the United States? Maximum 7 years. I don't know in the UK what is the measurement of the stability of the relationships here, but in the United States, where they make all these kinds of researches and they know about, they study all of these things, they say that nowadays marriage doesn't last more than 7 years. And I remember my grandparents. My grandparents stayed married more than 50 years, 60 years, till my grandfather died. And I remember my grandmother saying, with a lot of honor, with a lot of pride, that no neighbor has ever heard they shouting or they fighting. She said, not even one neighbor has heard our voice raised. How many couples nowadays we can say that they have so much complicity, so much love, so much respect, so much tolerance, so much patience with each other, so that they can decide and they can create all the solutions of their problems through dialogue instead of fighting. And that's another aspect of courage. For you to create relationship based on dialogue requires a lot of courage, because it's much easier for you to impose your ideas, for you to impose your points of view, to impose what you think that it's right or wrong. You want your own way. But to listen to the other one, to renounce sometimes your point of view so that the other one can be more comfortable with whatever they are proposing, it requires a lot of courage. So first of all is the relationship between two people. And many times people say that I want to find my other half, as if the person is not a whole being, but it's a divided being, just a half being. I'm finding my other half of the orange. So this is not real love, because love means that it's the relationship between two complete beings, two complete souls, two whole beings, and not divided beings. So I'm looking for my other half. It's not an expression of real love. So first of all, we have this in terms of the relationship between a couple. And then we have motherly love. And motherly love is one of the most pure loves, because with mothers, we still see how much they are able to renounce, how much they are able to give to their children. I have one story that I can share with you that happened with us in Brazil. For many years, we worked in a reformatory for young people before the age of 18. Instead of going to the jail, they have to go through this reformatory. So these were about 100 boys around the age of 15, 16, 17 years old. And we asked to these boys, who is the person that you liked most in your life? And from 100 boys, 99 answered, my mother. And why your mother? We asked them. And they said, because our mother is the one who comes here to visit us, to see us, to bring sweets for us, to bring whatever we need. She comes. And I said, other relatives don't come very rarely. Very rarely they come to see us. The one who really comes is the mother. So you see, even these young people who have committed some infraction, so who have done something wrong, they are connected. They can express their love for the mother, because the love of the mother is love without judgment, without prejudice. So this is real love, without judgment, without prejudice. Another example of love that I was reading, I got a message this past week, about one accident that happened many decades ago, probably some 40 years ago, or maybe some 30 years ago. It was an accident that we had with a Brazilian aircraft. The Brazilian aircraft left Brazil and going to France, to Paris, and arriving in Paris like 5 minutes before the arrival time. It had some problem in the aircraft, and the aircraft went into fire, and everyone from the plane, it was a big plane, died, except one person survived. Imagine, from 200 people that were in the plane, just one person survived. And this person had to stay in the hospital in Paris for many months because he was severely injured. His body was burned in most parts of the body, because as soon as the plane crashed, he became unconscious, and some part of the roof of the plane who was in fire fell onto him and burned him a lot. And his parents came to Brazil to stay with him. The company paid for them to stay in Paris in a hotel during all the time that the son, at that time he was 20 years old, was in hospital. And everyone was thinking and believing that that boy would die, would leave the body, would not survive. And the mother was the only one who had the faith against doctors, against the father even, against other relatives, that he would not die. And when he recovered, and he's alive even today, and he was sharing his experience, and that's how I got the video this past week, some friend that sent me this video. The mother, it was spring in Paris, so the mother used to walk on the streets carrying the hands, trying to grab the light of the sun. And because of the sun was inside the hospital, was not seeing light of the sun or nature since already many days. So the mother would bring that light of the sun on her hands and would put on the body of the son, like to express not just the love, but such an energy that she would capture it from the sun and bring to her son. And he was describing this experience and say, who can do this? Just a mother can do this. Just a mother can have such love and faith that your child is going to survive. Even I have this experience. When I was 7 years old, I had encephalitis. And at that time, especially, imagine 50 years ago, no one hardly would be saved because of this disease. And everyone in my family, including doctors and so on, used to think that I would die. And my mother was the only one. She used to come from my room to the chapel of the hospital and praying and being sure that I would survive. So we see this motherly love being very genuine, very sincere, very much the real expression of giving, of not taking anything, of not expecting anything, as the real expression of love. We can see also some very beautiful stories of sisterly love, brotherly love, which also shows us that amongst brothers and sisters, we can have this feeling. And why do we have so many problems in the world nowadays? It's because this brotherly love is missing. We don't have this brotherly love for the other people, especially the ones who are not equal to me. We don't have love for the ones who are not from the same religion. We don't have love for the ones sometimes who are not from the same gender, from the same community, from the same color, from the same level of education. So this brotherly love, if we would understand this whole world as being one big family, how much love we would have towards one another. So do you agree that the lack of brotherly love is one of the biggest problems in the world? To know that 1% or 2% of the population owns all the money that belongs to humanity. Imagine that there are about 150 people in the world that are richer than some countries, and so many people dying. Is it necessary to die because of hunger? Is it necessary to die because I don't have how to pay hospital or to cure some disease? It's not necessary, but it's the greed of some that don't allow these things to happen for the benefit of the majority. So brotherly love, sisterly love, it's very important as some tool to unify the humanity. So we need greatly this. But what is the biggest love of all? more than couples, more than marriage, more than mother, more than sister, more than brother, more than friends. Friends also sometimes, they have more love towards each other than brothers and sisters. But the biggest love of all is the love of God. How can we experience this love of God? Because God's love, it's two ways. God's love for me and my love for God. Because there is this communication. And many times we cannot experience the love from God because we don't have self-respect. We don't feel that we are worthy to receive this love. And now I'm going to share with you something that I heard many years ago from Daddy Yankee. Daddy Yankee is the director, the international leader of the Brahma Kumaris, and she stays in India. She's now 104 years old, very lucid, very amazing person. And many years ago, she was saying that when she came to London, and this was in the 70s, she said that she noticed something very important, that it was that the people in the West had very little self-respect. And she gave the example that in India, I'm talking about 74, 75, because nowadays many things have changed also in India. But at that time, the families used to live as extended families. It means that father, mother, sons, the daughters-in-law, the children, everyone would be living in the same house together, and brothers and sisters and so on. So she was saying that imagine in a big family, in an extensive family, like they call it in sociology, imagine that the mother was not so loving, but the children would not miss anything because there would be an auntie or the grandmother who was close to them who would give the love that they need. Imagine if the father was not a very hard-working fellow, but there would be a cousin or there would be an uncle that would be an example and a sample for the members of the family. So she was saying that in this environment, all the people would receive all the influences that they needed to grow, to learn, to progress, and especially to have a reference. Because they would seek very clearly who would be more loving, who would be more dedicated, who would be the ones who had more qualities. But nowadays, how do we see the families in the West? They live in small groups, a nuclear group, as we call it in sociology, father, mother, children, sometimes different forms of families. Nowadays, we have very different forms of families. And many times, just one parent is in the house because of divorce, because of other reason. So the children are raised by one parent only. So which reference do the children have? They have the reference of the TV. They have the reference of the media. And this reference not always gives the better character, gives the better example in terms of qualities, in terms of virtues. So Daddy Yankee was saying that it requires a lot of self-esteem for you to be able to come close to God. Because if you feel that you are not worthy, that you are nothing, that God is not even seeing you or recognizing you, or He will never love you, how can you come close to Him? And it's at these moments when we are feeling low that we need more the company of God. We need more than anything to feel this supreme power, this supreme source near in our lives. So God's love is such that he sees each one of us in our potential. The experience that I have of God's love is that God knows me more than even I know myself. And I know that I have many shortcomings. I know that I have many defects. And God also knows all my defects. But his attention is on my qualities, because he's giving me light and he is giving me power for me to develop more and more my qualities, instead of correcting me. God doesn't play the role of the one who is a corrector, correcting me of my mistakes. But he knows that as I become more powerful, as I have more strength, naturally I will leave my weaknesses. So if we have weaknesses, it's not because we are bad. It's not because we are not worthy. It's not because God doesn't love us. If we have defects, it's because we are weak. And if we are weak, we need power. So to come close to God means to receive this supreme power. Because how do we see God? We see him as a soul, not as a human soul, but as a supreme soul. But being a soul, like we are souls, he is a living being. He's not just an energy. He's more than an energy. He, being a soul, he has a personality. And so his personality is 100% pure. His personality is 100% giving. His personality is 100% merciful and compassionate. So to come close to God is to receive real happiness, is to receive this experience of how to grow and how do we learn through God's company. So we can receive from God the love of a mother and a father. So imagine if you didn't have the love of your parents, or because they were not very loving, or because they died before you grew up. So we now have this opportunity to experience the attention, the care, the listening of God as our mother and father. Even the authority that God has to be able to teach us the right way of living. And if we want to experience God as our teacher, we can learn all the knowledge that he has to give to us. And in fact, to share love, to share knowledge, to share wisdom is the way that God has to express his love. So as much more we receive, we experience this godly love, godly knowledge, more and more we are receiving his love. And to experience God as our guide, it's the guarantee that we are walking on the right path. And God doesn't have any interest in receiving the return of this love. Because it's a question that I ask you. God can become better than he already is? God cannot improve. He's already 100%. So that's why his love, his giving, everything of love, of knowledge, of virtues, of power that he gives to us is without any interest to receive in return. So love of God is the only love that we can really say that it's 100% altruistic love. Because even if we want to give the return, God cannot take the return. The return we are receiving ourselves. If we want to do a good act, or if you want to do the best you can, who is receiving this return? You yourself. You are receiving. As God cannot take it, He just gives the power as the return for yourself. So it's a great possibility in our lives to experience not just human love. That's very important and creates a lot of emotional balance if we experience love from other human beings. It's very soothing, it's very healing, it's very important for our maturity, it's very important for our emotional balance to receive love from other human beings. But to receive the love of God, that creates a super sensual happiness, a happiness that goes beyond the sensual pleasure, the senses, the physical senses. So it's an invitation to each one of us here that together with the effort to develop our love for other human beings, for humanity, for nature, for animals, that we also increase our love for God. Because the one who is going to benefit most from it, it's myself. Not just I would benefit from experiencing this love, this supreme love, but everyone who comes into my company will also experience the vibration, the greatness of someone who is close to God. So who would like to be a companion of God? Huh? Everyone, very good. So this is what we have to explore now in our lives, how to be closer to God. So we are going to have a meditation, and so that we can experience some of these things. But I just wanted to know if anyone would like to ask any question before we go into the meditation. Okay. If there is no question, we can follow for the meditation. So I invite you to sit with your back straight, your feet on the floor, your face can be very relaxed. Don't need to have any tension in your forefront, your eyes, your cheeks, your lips touching each other very lightly. And for some moments, I invite you to pay attention to your breath. Just experience the air entering your nose and moving towards your chest. And as the air comes in, just visualize that light is coming into your chest. And as the air comes out, just visualize that together with the air, you are putting out any tiredness, any drowsiness. You are just feeling completely fresh. Concentrate in this movement of the air coming in, the air going out, because this will help you to concentrate your attention in this rhythmic movement, in and out. And you can take your attention now to the middle of your forehead. Between your eyebrows, where we say that we have a third eye, the eye of knowledge, the eye of wisdom, and you just experience that you are this living being. You are this conscious being called soul, called Atma. I am this energy that shines in the middle of my forehead. And my nature is of purity, love, and peace. I am a loving being. I am love. I radiate, first of all, love to my own body. I love myself because I recognize my qualities. And I radiate love to my fellow beings. Simply because I am like a lighthouse of love, irradiating love. Everyone around me receives the light of love. And on the wings of love, I can feel very detached from this physical world. As if I'm moving to another dimension, a dimension of silence, a dimension of light, a dimension of gold, red light. In this dimension of silence, I feel very much at home, because it's the dimension where I lived before coming to play my part onto the stage of the world. In this dimension of silence, I can be in the company of God, my mother and father. I come very close to Him, like a spiritual son. I experience His rays of unconditional love. Love in the form of mercy, love in the form of care, love in the form of healing, love in the form of listening to me. I can see all these many faces of love that God has. And I can just experience His company. And with this attitude, we are going also to spread this love onto the world. Especially today, there is a movement here in the UK to dedicate 3 minutes for all the patients of the coronavirus around the world, and especially around the UK, but around the world, who are suffering. So we are going to spread this vibration of love, and we are going to dedicate this healing energy to the people who have been with this flu, so that they can get better and they can recover peacefully. And now coming back, bringing with me this healing vibration of love and the determination that from now on I will be a giver of love and not a taker of love. And God will be my teacher in teaching me how to love. This is the gift that I'm going to give to myself. Om Shanti. So you are most welcome to come every Friday for these meetings, And I know that at the reception there are flyers about all the activities of the house. So you are most welcome to take benefit of these services that happen in this wonderful place. Good night, good evening to each one.